Hey guys, this is Francesca from Under the Covers. Welcome back to the channel, and today I am going to be recapping the books that I picked from friends' recommendations, and this is for the goal that I have this year to complete the 12 Reads by 12 Friends challenge. This is a challenge that was started over on Instagram by Tiffany from Bookworm Grimes. This is something that I was planning on doing anyway because I knew I wanted to read more books from my friends' recommendations, because those books usually tend to be put to the end of my TBR, and I either pick things from my old books that I've had on my TBR or ARCs or the new shiny that catches my eye. So I did want to make more of an effort to read books from friends' recommendations this year anyway, and this was the perfect challenge to force me to do that. So I already had a few books that I knew I wanted to read this year on my list, and I asked on Instagram for you guys to send me some recommendations, so I was able to pick 12 books, one for each month. Now that doesn't mean that I'm gonna read it the month that I assign it to in this video. I may pick and choose, and you know, I'm a little bit of a rebel when it comes to rules. So I do have the 12 books that I want to read, and I'm just gonna read them when I'm in the mood for them. And be sure to stay tuned to the end of this video because I have a very exciting giveaway announcement. This may be something that you guys may have been already waiting for. I did give a little sneak at what this giveaway was gonna be in a previous video. So stay tuned to the end of this video to check out the details for that. But without any more delays, let's just jump right into the 12 books that I picked. The first one that I'm assigning for January, and I'm also reading it for Romanceopoly, is To Love Jason Thorne by Ella Mace. This is book one in the Love and Hate series, and it was recommended to me by Stephanie from Ideally Inspired Reviews last year. I have been wanting to read this author, so I think that this is going to be the perfect opportunity to do that. This is a best friend siblings romance. The heroine is an author, and she happens to be the writer for a book that's being adapted into a movie, and the hero is going to be the leading star. The next book on my list has been on my list for way too long, and this is Straight Up Love by Lexi Ryan. This is book two in the Boys of Jackson Harbor series. It was recommended to me by Brittany from Brittany's Reads over on Instagram, and she recommended this whole series to me a long time ago, and I read the first book on her recommendation back in March of 2019. I absolutely loved it, and I was itching to read book two, and I didn't start it immediately, and that was my mistake, and then I just didn't go back to it. So I'm super excited to read this one because it's a story of best friends turned to lovers, and the cool premise about this is that the heroine has been in love with the hero forever, and she's now getting older, and she wants to have a child, and she doesn't have any prospects of anybody she's dating, so she decides to ask her best friend to be sort of, I guess, the sperm donor so that she can have a child. This is probably one of the ones I'm anticipating the most on this list, just because I had already read book one and I was already anxious to read this one. I love the chemistry between these two characters, so I know it's going to be amazing. My book pick for the month of March is going to be Letters to Molly by Daphne Perry. This is book two in the Mason Jar series. I have not read book one, so full disclaimer, I'm hoping that I can read this one as a standalone. And this is on the recommendation of Rhonda from KS Secret Books on Instagram. Obviously, this is a story about a relationship that happens through letters, and the letters that the heroine starts receiving are actually written and dated from 15 years before, and they were written starting from the night after the first date that she had with a man that she would never forget. But it so happens that these letters are now being sent 15 years later by a different person. So I think it sounds really interesting, and it's probably going to be really emotional, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. For April, the book that I picked is The Witness by Nora Roberts. This is a standalone by Nora Roberts, and it was recommended to me by Ange from P&R Book Lover Reviews. I know that Ange loves all things Nora Roberts, and I've personally mostly just read her titles written as J.D. Robb and the In Death series, so I'm really looking forward to reading a little bit more from her Nora Roberts titles. And who better to take a recommendation from for this than Ange, who's apparently binged most of Nora Roberts' titles in the past couple of years. This is a romantic suspense novel. It has a geeky heroine and a cop hero. For May, I picked Pretend You're Mine by Lucy Score. This is a title that was recommended to me by Monica from Night Reads on Instagram. This is a fake relationship trope, and the hero is a military hometown hero, and he needs a girlfriend to get his family off his back. My June title comes as a recommendation from Liber Lady on Instagram as well, and it's one that she's been recommending to me for a while, and it's How to Howl at the Moon by Eli Easton. This is a male-male romance, and it is actually a dog shifter romance, so I thought that that was really interesting. I've been wanting to read it since she recommended it to me. I have read this author before. I'm very intrigued to check out a paranormal romance from this author. For July, I picked Desperately Seeking Epic by B.N. Toller, and this I'm actually putting as a recommendation from Malia from Romance Schmomance on Instagram, but it was actually the most recommended book when I requested recommendations. A ton of people recommended this book to me. I was kind of shocked, so definitely I had to make it on my list. And then of course, once I read the blurb for this, I almost started crying, so I know it's going to be an emotional read. It does have a hero who apparently goes by the nickname Epic, and he was in love with this woman, and I guess things fell apart between them and they went their separate ways. And now all these years later, he sees an ad on Craigslist that states Desperately Seeking Epic, and it turns out to be this 12-year-old girl who claims that he is her father, and she wants to meet him before she dies. She is sick, and that is her one last wish. I know this one's gonna get me in the feels, and I'm really looking forward to it. The next book is for August, and it is Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reed. This is book 2 in the Game Changer series. It is a male-male romance, and it's a sports hockey romance. And I'm reading this on the recommendation of Karina from Book Twins Reviews 1. And I actually read book 3 already in January, and that was sort of on how much she's enjoyed this series in particular. And I just grabbed the arc for book 3 and I really enjoyed it, but she did tell me that book 2 was so much better, so I'm really excited to read book 2. The main couple in that book did make a cameo appearance in book 3 that I already read, so I am so excited to read it because there was chemistry just flying off the pages, and I just can't wait to dive into this one. The next one for September is going to be The Earl by Cecilia Mecca. This is book 4 in the Order of the Blade series. It is a historical romance sort of set in medieval times, and this was recommended to me by Christina from KROM2311 on Instagram. I have actually read the first book in this series, and it did leave me interested to read more. And since this is book 4, hopefully by the time September comes around, I'll have read the other 2 books in between. For October, I picked How to Love a Duke in 10 Days by Kerrigan Byrne. This is book 1 in the Devil You Know series, and it was recommended to me by Dimitra on Instagram. She's actually one of our dearest followers here at Under the Covers. She's been with us since the very beginning of the blog, and I trust her recommendations because I feel like she pretty much knows our reading taste. And Kerrigan Byrne is actually an author that I really enjoyed since the release of The Highwayman, and throughout the years in her releases I sort of fell off and haven't kept up with reading her books, but I really wanted to read this one. It was on my TBR for 2019, and this is the perfect push for me to read it in 2020. My November book is The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. This was a recommendation from Maja. I hope I'm saying her name right, from Maja Books on Instagram. And this was also on my 2019 reading list, and I didn't get to read it. It does sound like a really emotional story. It's about 2 friends that were in the military together. One of them gets killed, and the other one gets a letter from him, that last letter after a soldier dies. And in this letter, he's asking his friend to please go back to his hometown and help his sister take care of her twins because she's all alone. She's lost all her family, and obviously now if he's receiving this letter, she's lost him also. So he wants his friend to leave the military and go help his sister. The last book that I picked for December is Desperate Measures by Katie Robert. This is book 1 in the Wicked Villain series, and it's a recommendation from Genesis from Whispering Chapters on Instagram. This was one of her favorite erotic romances that she read in 2019, and I happen to have purchased this ebook in 2019 as well. It sounded really interesting to me. I didn't really see a ton about this book online, and once she said it was one of her favorites of the year, I knew I had to read it. This is an erotic romance, kinky, loose retelling of Aladdin. Do keep in mind that it is not fantasy, it is contemporary. So it is very loosely based on that story. So that's the 12 books. Like I said, I'm gonna be kind of a rebel and maybe not read them on that particular month, but at least this gives me a little bit of a guide. I'm super excited to read all of these books, so thank you so much to all of you guys that send in recommendations. And now for the giveaway announcement. This is something that you guys probably already knew about if you watched our in-depth read-along announcement video, and it is going to be the kickoff of the massive in-depth series by JD Robb giveaway that is being hosted by Berkeley Romance and St. Martin's Press. And I say massive because one of you guys will be able to win the whole series in mass market paperback. So that's all the titles that are already out right now. So it will not include the title that's coming out in February, but it will be 49 mass market paperbacks. I'm kind of jealous that I can't enter it. This giveaway will run from January 14th through February 4th, so be sure to check the information box down below for the link on how you can enter. As you may have seen, we are hosting a read-along this whole year, 2020, of the in-depth series, and that just means that you would commit to reading one book in the series per month. You can start wherever you are in the series, whether you're starting at the beginning of the series or halfway through, wherever it is. It's just a commitment to read 12 books during 2020 in the series, and it is a way to tackle this series in a manageable way just because it's such a large series. Don't forget to follow our in-depth read-along account on Instagram, which is where we're trying to be hosting all the discussion and reviews and things like that, and for you guys to really connect and get to know each other, everybody that's participating. So again, that's on Instagram at in-depth read-along. And also one last thing for the giveaway is that it's only for the US. I would love to know if you guys are participating in the 12 Reads, 12 Friends challenge. If you haven't heard about it before, I think it would be a great way to add some great reads to your TBR for the year. And that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I talked about in this video, or if you have them on your TBR, and what books are you most anxious to read this year if a friend has recommended any to you. Don't forget to follow us on the blog at underthecoversbookblog.com and all our social media channels. All the links will be in the information box down below. Like this video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our videos. Good luck on the giveaway, guys, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!